try to really, really have something that is distinctive in your style, and then keep going, and don't expect to get a sale tomorrow. Just every sale you should celebrate, because it's a little win, and we should celebrate little wins. And don't compare yourself, because that's a disaster. If you do that, you waste time, and time is so precious. We don't want to do that.
I am so delighted to be here today with Dom Vari. She is a talented designer who licenses her art and creates for a number of print-on-demand shops. Dom and I share an agent at Jewel Branding, and I love when her colorful art comes across my Instagram feed. So welcome, Dom. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth. I'm very glad that you mentioned the color. That's a very nice little touch. I'm very well. It's very hot here in London.
It's hot everywhere right now.
Yeah.
So to start, can you give us just sort of a brief overview of how you came to design art for products?
Okay, well, when I was very young, I always wanted to do cards, but I come from Belgium, where the car market is very poor. So that was not an option. Then I studied design, and I was thinking about I should do my product, but then I had a career in graphic design. Then I moved to London, and I didn't speak English. So I was actually making cards whilst I was waiting for an interview. And that's when I first started to send cards to different publishers or retailers who have this studio in-house. And all the answers were very negative, because they all said, oh, it's very graphic, because I'm a graphic designer. I like minimalist style. So they all said, very nice, but we can do that in-house, because my art, even if very conceptual at the time, was so easy to copy it. So at least somebody put that in writing, and I stopped sharing my ideas. Then I got a job, and I carried on for another 10 years in the branding and packaging industry, which has been my main career. And then I go to local shops. I live in the middle of Notting Hill, where we have lots of little shops, little makers, and you go to many art exhibition and shows, and I started to think, oh, I very much would like to do my products. And I had the intention to create my brand, Dom Vari, and to start with greeting cards, because that was, to me, I even didn't think about anything else. And I started to walk in the shows, and I was getting information to hire a stand. And so you may know that it costs a lot of money. And I stopped at different publisher stand and asked questions. And one of them asked me, but what do you do? And do you have anything to show me? And I was showing him some of my work, called, at the time, not yet created, but Wild About Words, so images with words. And he said, why do you bother? Why do you want to manufacture, and why do you want print and stock and have people working for you, when we can do that for you? We can do that licensing. I never heard about that word in the context of my work, and I said, that's interesting. So I was really busy during daytime, and you can't really have two lives. Some people do, but I can't have two lives. And so I just thought, I'm going to try that. And that's how I started greeting cards with Card Mix, which is owned by Woodmanston. It's a big, really well established publisher in the UK. And then I think this is quite interesting. A couple of years later, I realized I couldn't do stationery, because as an artist, I'm really bad at reading contract. And I advise everybody to read contract in detail, because that's so important. And I realized I couldn't do any stationery. I couldn't do anything else. So I was really upset, because I was stuck in a contract, and I couldn't even not do anything abroad without them. So for instance, I wanted to expand in America, but at the time they were not doing America. And so I felt very trapped. So I was still in a full-time job, and that's when I decided to stop the contract. It was just up to renewal, and it coincided with Jewel Branding, who contacted me. So that was, she got my name from somebody I met at a show, and she contacted me. But at the time, Jewel was a really small business, and I'm really glad that she found me then, because it's been a fantastic opportunity. So that's how I started. But then I didn't do anything else. I didn't do anything else myself for another few years. But yeah, so that's how I started with Jewel Branding.
I love that. So you come from a graphic design background, you were doing graphic design, and then you got into greeting cards. And I love that you had this one product that you were really interested in. And that's how I felt too. And greeting cards was the same thing for me, because even though I worked in-house designing textiles for home textiles, I really loved greeting cards. So I was always working on greeting card ideas myself as well. So it's definitely something that I'm the same as you in that way, in that I love to design for greeting cards. So I've been licensing with Jewel since 2013, and you started even before then. When was it, like 2010 or
10 or 11, yes. And it's amazing because I launched a huge collection of cards. I had 55 cards under the Wild About Words theme. And I must say, I want to go back to greeting cards because I stopped that, and I shouldn't have, because I still have an income. Well, now it's tiny, but from that collection, there's still some sales now, and I haven't
wow.
touched, I haven't touched a pencil, anything for that collection. I actually no longer design in that style. But I'm glad that we have a similar passion for cards, and it started even earlier on, and I was so keen when I was even a teenager to do all the bespoke cards, so for newborn and wedding and all that, and that's very much what I wanted to do. But then it had to be practical, and I moved to more kind of standard production line. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've had so many conversations with different artists, and it makes such a difference how the environment that you're raised in, if you feel like you have the opportunity to pursue art, right? So as you said about kind of the practical, saying like I had to do something more practical, you still felt comfortable pursuing art, but it was graphic design, so graphics, which is a little bit different. And that is something, my mom trained as an art teacher. She ended up being a regular elementary school teacher, not an art teacher, and then a children's librarian. But my older sister, who's 10 years older than me, went to school for graphic design, and she continues to be a graphic designer. So I always had that in my house, knowing that you could have a career around art. I mean, no one was like a fine artist, but and so knowing that art could be a career is I think that makes a big difference for a kid, because
Oh, that's
some
amazing.
people thought like there's absolutely no way. And I know there is a big difference between like being a surface designer or an illustrator and being a graphic designer, but even still, it's like seeing a pathway for that artwork. So I know that for many years you did, as you say, work as a graphic designer, and you had a full-time job for many years, and illustration and sort of licensing was a bit of a side hustle. How do you think doing those two things at once was good, and how do you think it was maybe not so, like, what is your takeaway from doing both sides for so long?
Well, I suppose when you're a graphic designer, you think you have, well, first of all, you have an advantage because you have been playing with the software, technique of production. So there are a lot of things that you learn because of your own experience. And, I need to remind you that I'm older than you. So I started at the very beginning of, the computer.
Right.
So, I learned a lot in terms of production, and that was brilliant. But, I also had to learn by myself, because people often say, oh, you're a graphic designer, or I'm a self-taught artist. But I'm a self-taught artist too, in a sense that there's a huge difference between a graphic designer and an artist. First of all, a graphic designer, you can't be precious about your work. You have briefing, you have to be on brief. If you don't respond to the brief, you will not keep your job. So you have to work on time, a deadline. It's very different when you are, and when you are your own boss. It's also difficult because you no longer necessarily receive this briefing and this kind of more strict routine, which I think is really good. And I'm glad that I learned that. But becoming an artist, because I have been now a designer and artist for the past 2 years, I finally made that jump after so many years. it's actually not easy because, as I mentioned, you no longer have this briefing that come in, and you need to be
Mm.
strict for yourself, which, I can be distracted so easily. So that's the hardest thing. And you need to manage your time better. And you don't have somebody, if you are in a company, you have somebody who, or even your small business, you are going to have somebody doing your technology, etc. But when you are a new artist, you are not going to spend money on all this. So you are really your own boss at all levels. So I think the advantage again about being a graphic designer and becoming an artist is that I am multifaceted, which has helped me to explore different things. But at the same time, it's a con because if you are an artist, you will often generally be recognized for the style you have. And I feel that I'm still exploring, and I love that. I couldn't do the exact same style forever. I
Mm.
think, and I'm not quickly bored. It's just that I don't think I don't think it feeds my mind and my soul, and I want to do something different every now and then, or exploring different things. I don't want to do just one subject, and you can become so popular and known for your style, which is great, which can make you a more successful artist. But I still feel that for my own balance, I want to experience the diversity of work at different levels. So the style, the theme, different trends. I'm sure that you can relate to that because
Right. No, I really
also
can.
very,
Yeah,
very,
I
very,
mean, I think the thing that we have in common then on that side of it is, even though I wasn't trained as a graphic designer, because I worked for 10 years in-house and we had those deadlines, we needed to do that production stuff. It was for textile design, it was for repeating patterns often, it was for products, but I was getting those briefs and I was getting I had those deadlines. And so in that way, I think we both have the viewpoint of we're doing commercial art, right? We're creating art for a commercial purpose, versus coming at it from a fine art, like I'm doing art for art's sake. And if people want to put it on a mug, cool, but like this is what's coming from my soul. That, at least I can't speak for you, but for me, that has never been my motivation. My motivation is I want to do something pretty, but and like fun that makes me happy, but I want it to have a purpose. Like I thought I was going to study graphic design until I discovered surface design in college. I expected it would be graphic design because I wanted to do work with a commercial, an eye for commercial design. And I think that being a successful, now that I work for myself, being a successful designer, you do still need to be aware of those things that you talked about as far as deadlines and all that stuff, because that helps you be professional when you do have your client work. When you're building a client list, you have more freedom to kind of do whatever you want, and you do have to kind of stay motivated. But as you build your client list, or your licensing deals or whatever, you do start to need to be able to respond to what people are asking for and being flexible and stuff. So all those skills do come into play. But there's a lot of other skills too. So
yeah, no, but I mean, I agree. But also, you mentioned that we share the same agent, and even though now we are our own bosses and we both had these experiences, if you really want to pursue a licensing career, considering that especially since COVID, so many more people became their own bosses and they work from home, they become artists. There's so many more creative on the market than ever, more pods, more people who want to license their work. And our agents find new artists very easily because now with social media, you have access to the whole globe via your phone, and you can do you can create a portfolio of 100 artists, in no time if you wanted to. So when we work with our agent or for our agent, we need to be that, assertive person. We need to work harder because if we don't create visibility to them, and if we don't feed them with new work, and we don't respond to trends, because that's another good thing with an agent, you can also get some information, more insight about what they feel that we need to provide to their partners. And we need to be, we need to go back to them, we need to remember that we are here, we are doing this, because they keep growing. And if we don't keep growing, whilst they can keep growing, we'll be out. So I suppose for me, having an agent is nearly a necessity, because I feel that it keeps pushing me to do things that perhaps if I was not framed, with certain objective, I would probably not be lazy, but I would probably create and spend too much time on something that doesn't deserve it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it definitely makes sense. Well, so that I'm going to skip around with my questions a little bit, because that's a good segue into, I talk to so many new designers who have difficulty finding paid client work or licensing work. And they decide that, if I find an art licensing agent, that's the solution, right? Perfect. Like they might be watching this video and being like, oh, these two are at this, amazing licensing agency. They're so lucky. All I need to do is find that agent. And we've both been doing this for 10 years with our agent, and every agent is different. We have our perspective, and we only have our particular agent. But what advice would you give to designers who feel like, if I can just get that agent, then it all comes rolling in?
I had a few artists who contacted me because they had an opportunity and they wanted to know, should I do it? Should I not do it? First thing, if an agent contacts you, and if it's a good agent, of course, if it's somebody established with some kind of, positive records already, just go for it. Because if an agent wants you, it means that they know how they're going to make money with you. We need to remember they are commercial people. We are the creatives. So they'll deal with everything that we don't like doing. But if they want you, just go for it. But then at the same time, I think if you don't mind, I'm going to explain what happened to me as an artist. So I think it's a really interesting scenario, because I haven't heard any other close fellow artists who went through something similar. So I started really easily with World About Word, which actually I pulled these cards.
Oh yeah, show us, because I want people to understand
my very
this.
first design.
I remember always seeing these on Jules' website when I first started. So yeah, they're these great designs that are based on.
They are all made with words. These are, all
so cool. Yeah.
But it's not, it's not a shape filled with words. It's really made with, with time, and it's crazy basically. But anyway, so I start with them. It's very graphic, very minimalist, and it immediately took off. And even at the time, my agent said, this is quite unusual. Normally it takes time, and then you need the launch time, and then, you have lots of things happening when you license your work. It doesn't happen overnight. It can take a year to get a product launch, or even more. And so immediately a few licensing deals happened, and I was over the moon, and I earned quite a good chunk of money the first year and the second year, and then nothing. And then I could see, there were no signatures. So I just thought, what's happening? And it's very simple. The trends changed, and everything became what is still now more kind of handmade, crafted, natural texture, etc. And that was not my work. That was not my style. So that obviously didn't allow me to progress, because my art was no longer relevant. And you need to be different and relevant. That's the basic in everything you do, whether it's branding or cooking, or if you want to succeed and stand out of the crowd, you need to be different and relevant. That's the USP. That's what they call in agency. That's very simple. But the thing is, I never did anything different, so I was not sure. So I tried different things. I tried even some proper arts, where I was transforming photography into something abstract, and I did some exhibition, but it costs a lot of money, and it's fantastic, but it's not sustainable. So if you want to be a proper artist, it costs lots of money, and you need to be very rich, or you need to change your lifestyle completely. But then what I decided to do, okay, I was lucky because I had a good job, I was busy. So for me, everything I was earning with geo branding was, as a side hustle, was extra. So I never worried about the financial income, because I never had to.
Mm.
So I just thought I'm going to leave it for a while. Also, something else that may happen, which also people need to know, you may have some prospect with a licensing partner, and then there may be an acquisition or something. So for instance, I had a few collection in progress, and then there has been an acquisition we were not aware, and then everything stopped. So that was a
Mm.
year of work, a year of work. But when you do licensing, unless you are really, really successful and well established, you don't get any fees.
Mm.
So I was very deflated. But then I just said, okay, I'll leave it for a while. And then that's when I started to discover the pods. And I just thought, oh, maybe I should try to do something like this. But I was not worried. I left it and I thought, I'm going to try to illustrate and to do different things. And that's how I started to grow. And also, I think as a graphic designer, it's really hard when you always work with the software to drop everything and to learn something new. And
Mm.
it took me a long while to decide to go for a tablet and to draw. And I really enjoy it, but I still like both ways, and I'm still learning. I'm far behind where I should be, but yeah. So um, I had the luxury to let that go for a while and to pursue my exploration,
Mm.
my creative exploration alongside the job.
Right.
And
I think that taking that pressure off is so important. When you do have that pressure of like, I need to make this work, it's really hard. I mean, for a lot of reasons, but I think that this industry specifically, I mean, I've been in this industry for a long time and I know some things, but I was actually just saying to you before we started recording, like, I can't specifically say, like, if I decided, next month I need to earn an extra $1,000 because I'm trying to save up for something or whatever. I can't say, I know that if I put in, 10 extra hours or 20 extra hours, that I'm definitely going to earn an extra $1,000. Like, it really doesn't, it's not that one-to-one equation. So when new designers come to me and they say, well, how long is this going to take? And I've had people come in who have said, like, I think their financial situation has changed, and they're like, so what can I do to make, whatever, $2,000 in the next month? And I'm like, if you figure it out, you tell me, because like, I can't, especially they're starting from scratch. I'm like, I have some suggestions of things you can explore, but I can't guarantee that you're going to make that money. So having that, job, whether it's a full-time job, whether it's a part-time job, whether it's, some other passive income that you have, is so important as you're getting started, because it really does take 2 or 3 years to start seeing that progress. And even then it might not be, a full-time income worth of progress. It can take even longer. And so I do want to dip into, you said you started to explore through PODs, print on demand sites. So just for anyone who's watching who isn't familiar, that would be something like Society6, Spoonflower, Redbubble, Minted, these things where, well, Minted's a little bit different, but these things where you can create your own artwork, upload it onto the website, and then if people see it and love it and want it on a product, then they can order it and you get a commission on that. I always see your art for Society6, that often you have it on your Instagram and stuff, and it's really trend forward and wonderful. So I'm curious, how long, you said you started exploring that, about how many years have you been on print on demand sites, and what's your experience? Do you have any tips for new designers?
yeah, well, I don't have a recipe for success. Again, I'm talking here about financial success because that's not the success that we have in common, Elizabeth. But so first of all, there are many more pods. Pods are growing, and when I started to look into pods, I started with Society6 because I thought that the art was quite premium and quite different, and you have such a great variety of artists on that spot.
Mm.
I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know how it works. I actually didn't know that once you upload your first design, it's not going to be visible I had no idea. I just thought, oh, it's going to be in the shop. But no, it can only be in the shop if you create enough, whatever it is, because we don't really know how the algorithm of these spots work. We, if you're not visible, you're not going to sell anything. So it took me a long time. It took me over. So I started, couldn't see my work, and I left it for another 2 years. This is how it happened. And then I heard, I connect with other people on Instagram, and then I just realized that everybody is on Society6, which I created an account, so I'm back into it. I need to be a bit more active. I need to connect. So what the experience for me on Society6 has been a disaster financially for a long time, and then it's a disaster again right now. But I explain why. It's been really interesting because again it forces you to try to create more regularly, and also you get a benefit is that at the time it was quite new to see your product on mock-ups, because at the time we didn't have all these mock-ups that we can buy now, or that was really the beginning. And I felt very good when I see my art on mock-ups. It feels like, yeah, it can happen because it looks good, or I think it looks good, and I really enjoyed that. Another aspect, a positive aspect, is that you do connect with people who follow you, you follow back, and you realize that they are really, I mean, I'm so grateful. I mean, they are really talented artists who are following me, and I'm following them, and you can't follow everybody, but it's really nice to see that your art is appreciated really, truly. So that's a bonus, isn't it? Now, in terms of revenue, it took me a long time to start selling on Society6. I was even recommended by the customer service to maybe to split my work because I have different styles, so it may be easier for customers to shop if I regroup my art. And believe it or not, I have 3 shops. I have one that is graphic and typographic. I have one that is more ethereal with photography and nature photography and glitch, and then another one that is really pure, more still graphic but pure minimalist arty design. And I started to sell, not big amount of money, but my sales were growing. And then what did they do? They just started to implement memberships. So suddenly I sell nothing. So I'm now back to zero, but I keep going because I still think that it's a very resourceful pod, Society6. What I found difficult with these pods, and they're all the same in that respect, is that if you work for a company, you will want to know about them, and they will want to see you, and you have to deliver. Remember, if you were very young, first job, you go to an interview, you forget that you can ask questions. These people ask you question, you need to be good enough, you are going to do this, A, B, C, D, and that's it. But we should know about them as well. And what I found difficult with these companies is that all they know is what we upload. They have no idea who we are unless they connect with you and you are those who have been featured. But generally speaking, there's no relationship. So there's lots of things going on these spots. There are people copying others. There are people stealing works of each other. There are lots of things going on. But you know what? You say nothing because you are worried about being that person who may be perceived as complaining or whatever. And then you let it happen. And I think that is really sad. Although these spots are generally really keen to avoid these sort of issues, but these issues happen every day, whether it's on pods or on Instagram or the social media. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. These are things that are happening. But in terms of income, I don't see my success on Society6 with the income I got from them, because that's not working. But interestingly, and I'm going to share something, I just got an email yesterday. They invite me to be on Denis Design, which is one of the sub company. Most of my fellow artists I know, they are all on it, but I have never been
Design, DENY.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, just making
and
sure.
that could be another. I'm not sure it's a big opportunity, but that means that they see something different now. And we need to remember these spots, they are led by a small group of people. So naturally, if they decide to feature they say that they have about 20 different artists that they feature regularly because they fit different styles that are timeless, on trends. And, they're not going to take 5 artists who do the same thing. So once they have covered that territory, that's it. So if you're one of these and you're not selected, uh, tough, but that's just the way it works. And it works like this on all parts. And obviously, if you sell a lot, they are going to feature you. But I think persistence is really important. Now, I would certainly suggest, for anybody starting. I mean, the rules have changed on Society 6 now. You can have a free shop with up to 10 artworks, which could be quite interesting because you could see how people react, and also I can see that they are much more active in, helping these new artists to be discovered. So they do promote a lot of these new artists. So if somebody is taking off, they are going to fly, hopefully. But I would certainly say stick to your style. Try not to be, I mean, because we do follow the same trends, it's very easy to fall into art that is so similar. Try to really have something that is distinctive in your style, and then keep going, and don't expect to get a sale tomorrow. Just every sale you should celebrate, because it's a little win, and we should celebrate little wins, because it's your biggest one. But keep going, and just believe in what you do. Believe in what you do first, and keep going with the style that belongs to you, and don't compare yourself, because that's a disaster. If you do that, you waste time, and time is so precious. We don't want to do that. So that's my experience with Society 6. But today I can only speak with my sincerity of today, but maybe tomorrow I'll decide to stop because there's not enough benefits for me. Interestingly, you mentioned pattern design. I mean, I have been new to pattern design only for a few years. Again, I started shop on Spoonflower about 4 years ago, I think, and I only became active 2 years ago because I had no idea. I was not good at pattern. I didn't understand how to do a repeat pattern. So I'm a self-taught repeat pattern designer. And I discovered that the world of pattern is an exquisite, amazing, fantastic world, but also Spoonflower is an amazing platform where you really learn a lot. And I feel that artists on that platform are generally truly supportive. I'm not sure if you expect me to mention anything like this, but I joined recently Power Seller Academy. From
Erin Kendall. Yeah.
And that is truly an example of people who, that's her business. I mean, she's a designer. Well, she was not, but she became a designer, a very successful designer, and she created this platform where she invited artists to learn how to make your Spoonflower shop more efficient and more successful. And that is an amazing woman. She makes it so easy to understand little things. She gives you all little tips, all her insight. She shares it. And I would definitely encourage anyone who is going through this journey on Spoonflower to join her, because we need people like that. And sometimes
Erin Kendall is wonderful. Yes, I love her.
She's amazing. And sometimes you work by yourself, and imagine I have friends and they don't do what I do, and then they know I earn no money with my pods, okay? And they think that I'm crazy. What am I doing? But you need to talk to people who go through the same situation, because so many people go through the same situation. And you have to be persistent. You have to believe in what you do, because one day you're going to have that sale that will make it different. And that's what I truly believe in. But obviously, Spoonflower is now my main focus.
Yes. Well, so I mean, thank you for all that information and for that with that breakdown. Yeah. No, excuse me. I think that that's a really realistic take, right? Because I think we see people online who are selling, who are advertising all their print on demand stuff, and you have to imagine, oh well, like this is I think with the big benefit of print on demand is that there's no barrier to entry. You can just upload and there we go. You don't have to worry about finding a licensing partner or signing any contracts or things like that necessarily. But it isn't necessarily it still takes a lot of effort and persistence and, keep going. And there's still a certain amount of luck between, what they want to feature and what they need to show off versus if your style is similar to someone else's, as you were suggesting about Deny Designs. Maybe they have a certain artist that fill the kind of slot that you already are filling. And so they might, you might not get featured as much. So that's, a lot of information that I think is useful to people who are just getting started. Which brings me to a question that I think is really important for anyone getting started, anyone in the middle of the journey, anyone who's been doing this for a while like us. Let's talk about success. When I asked if I could interview you, you kind of told me, you can, but I'm not really successful. But, I think we have since had conversations about how our careers are so much more than just money. I think, look, I'm the same way. Like, money is very easy to measure, right? I know what my income is, and is it good enough, or is it what I want it to be? That's how some people measure success. But I'm curious, I'd love to continue talking about what have you learned as you've left your office job 2 years ago and pursued this as a career full time around success, and how you keep motivation going when you feel like you're, quote, not successful.
Well, I would like to say something because I mentioned before I could do this without being worried because I had a good job, and I had been successful in my career all my life. And then I finally do what I want to do the most, truly. And I'm a hardworking person. I'm determined. I'm really determined. So I don't let go easily. And then for the first time, I feel that, oh my God, this is really, really hard. But then my way, and that's a bigger take on life, really, because success makes your life successful. I really try to make a simple life extraordinary. That's something that I learned from my grandmother. And I think that's really important to have also a mindset that will help you to grow successfully, whatever the financial outcome. Of course, money is super important. But, what makes me, so you're right, when I have young artists contacting me, when they ask me, they are so convinced that I'm super successful, and then I know what that by that they mean money wise, because all they want to do is they want to sell. And I said I'm not successful, not that I am successful, but I'm not successful financially, because I say that because I want to tell them that it takes a long time, and maybe a little bit of luck, definitely. And it's the timing, if you meet the right person at the right time, the right place, you know how it works. And that's part of, that's the same in this industry. And because we don't meet these people on this spot, it's much harder because we don't get to have this conversation. They don't get to know who you are, what you are capable of, who you are generally, So then I generally tell them, and I have seen some younger artists doing it, and they are now successful. And I would say, stay true to yourself, create that's creating a style that you feel comfortable, keep pushing all the time, um, um, and create regularly to also be comfortable with what you're doing, and try, you can diversify, but like in any product, for any product category, you should, and I'm not doing it, but I'm telling you what you should do. You create your brand, and then you make the same recipe all the time, and you make it work, you become visible, then people recognize you as an artist, and you become successful. Only then, when you have this sort of credibility, only then you can start working with, exploring different style, and promoting different style, and that's valid in every single product category or businesses, music, fashion, anything. Think about anything. It's the same thing. obviously, if you want to work with an agent, I think it's a really positive um, option if you can create if you are multifaceted, which we are both, because they can fit you in different pots, and they can have more opportunity for small licensing deals. But if you work in an agent, they will always go with the most successful artists, and in this case, I mean, who sell, so who make money, because it's just easier to push for those who have shown results.
Mm.
I don't. Success doesn't happen overnight, and there are a few artists who are absolutely amazing and deserve the success, but they also got some luck on the way, whether it's it could be anything. It could be a push to do something new. I mean, if you are push to do better, you always deliver better work. It's a bit like if you are introduced in front of an audience, and people, oh, here is Elizabeth, she's an amazing designer, da, da, da. And I'm really positive about your background and what you deliver.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be easy to believe in you, but so you need to try to have somebody, a coach or somebody who can be there to support you, to keep you in the right direction, to keep you doing it.
Right. I think that motivation and that community is so important to having a coach and a community of people who you can rely on, and you can talk about the things that are difficult and the things that are, going well and working. I think, I would say for me, as much as honestly, money is a very an indicator of success, and it can be very frustrating, for at least in my own life, in my own business, that I feel like I haven't gotten to a place that I would want to get to, and I feel like everything takes way longer than I want it to, and I do get frustrated. But one thing that I can say about having done this now for 12 years on my own is that the flexibility of this career really makes up for some of the income, the income not being totally there, like being what I would want it to be, because I've just had so much opportunity. I have 2 kids who are now 7 and 9, and knowing I started this before I had kids, and being able to take a nap in the middle of the day when I was pregnant, and being able to, scale back on work. I didn't get any sort of paid maternity leave, but I was able to scale back on work. And if I need to run out and pick someone up, or if I'm just not feeling it myself, it doesn't always have to be about the kids. If I'm just having a day where I don't feel particularly creative, or I'm just in a really, I'm not feeling well or whatever, I can just chill out, and that's okay. And I really, really, really value that, because there's a lot of ups and downs in this industry. And when you work at an office job, you don't get to just chill out like that. You don't get to take a day off. I mean, obviously you have PTO and stuff, but you don't get as much flexibility. And, some weeks I work 20 hours a week, and some weeks I work 40 hours a week on my business, but I have that flexibility. So that has been so instrumental in my life, that I really, hold that dear when I think about, maybe my income not being what I want it to be. And my income's fine, but it's fine. But when I think about that, I think about, well, the benefits of this job, which are flexibility, being my own boss, being able to make my own decisions. So I really do value
Absolutely. I'm with you, being my own boss. I mean, I started my career being my own boss, but I had an office, and I was hiring freelancers. So it was the beginning of my career. I was working full time, and Saturday included. But then I have been in an office since I moved to the UK. So most of my career I have been in an office, and I never thought, to be honest, I never thought that I could be my own boss again in a country where we don't speak my native language. I don't know why, but I had decided that it was not going to happen. And like you, for me, being my own boss and having the flexibility of organizing my time how I want, obviously you need to be tough if you're not very good with time management. You need to work harder on that. But it's sensational. I don't know how I mean, you probably do the school run every morning and things like this, but I mean, I don't have the school runs, but then, now that I'm my own boss again, and also I think COVID has changed a lot of things for myself. I used to work like a nutter. I would just work until 3 o'clock in the morning, just regularly, and that's not good for your health. But now I start my day with a walk, always a walk, grabbing a coffee. Even if I don't have a coffee, I go for coffee because it's the walk, and it's fantastic, whether it's raining or sunny, I'm getting out there. I have my own time because I work from my home now. And it's so important to be able to prioritize what needs to be prioritized on a daily basis, and to organize your workflow as you like, and to focus on things you want to do. And also sometimes you can say no. What we also have the luxury, being graphic designers, we can always take graphic designers job. I personally try not to do that because I really want to focus on my creative work. And when you do graphic designer job, generally it's more corporate, or I mean, depends, because you work for surface pattern designer
Yeah,
company.
I
So
do freelance surface pattern design for sure, and that's where most of my income comes
that's
from.
slightly different. But yes, I think the benefits of being your own boss is fantastic. There's also something else perhaps to add to the pods, because when we both started, the pods were growing, but now we have a sort of, it's not that new anymore, but still new for many of us, the drop shipping
Drop
opportunity. So
shipping.
I feel that more and more we as artists and designers who want to open or wants to link our shops to our website, it would be easier to choose the product that we really want to focus on, because there will be more product available from all these different companies, and they will not be pods as such. So that means also that your revenue would be much, much better, because all the commission that are lost on the way will be yours.
Yeah.
So that's important.
Yeah, that's another option. And you know what, that I know we have to wrap up in a minute, but that brings me to a point that I really would love to make, because I feel like, we're talking, I feel like the conversation throughout the industry, not just our conversation, but throughout the industry right now, is a little bit frustrated, right? I think people are frustrated with the idea of AI coming in. I think people are frustrated with the feeling that the market is very saturated with artists. I think people are frustrated hearing, designers that maybe they look up to and thinking like, wait, Dom saying she's not successful, Elizabeth saying she makes okay money. Like, what is even happening right now? People, I think, are like not feeling very confident in this industry right now. And I will not sugarcoat things. It isn't, things are tricky right now. It's not easy. But what I do want to say is, if you think about what this industry was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, before the internet, like, this is my little bit of tough love for anyone watching this. This is something that I've been thinking about lately. We get these complaints of it's saturated and no one's paying attention to me on Instagram, on the algorithm, and all these things. But imagine if you were trying to have this career in 1995. Number one, you wouldn't even know about this career because you didn't hear about it in university, or you don't live in New York City where you walk by a fabric company every day. So you wouldn't even know about surface design because probably you heard about it on the internet if you're new to it, right? Number two, if you did know about it and you wanted to be part of it, as Dom was talking about, you would have to go to a show. you would have to learn about the show. You'd have to go to a show. So you'd have to fly to New York or fly to LA or fly to London. You'd have to attend a show. Then you'd have to realize, oh, I need to display at this show. The only way to make contacts is to be at a trade show. You'd have to spend $10,000, $15,000 on a booth on getting all your materials printed. You would be spending lots of money on software and computer. Well, even in 1995, maybe you're hand painting, right? Maybe you're doing gouache paintings, but you're doing all this work. You'd have to live in a major metropolitan area so that you could look through a yellow pages, so you could phone call all these companies. Right now, we are so spoiled with the internet that we can put things on Instagram and it's possible for an art director to see us, that we could put things on Pinterest for free and it's possible that an art director could discover us. Yes, it's not that likely, it's not definitely going to happen, it's not guaranteed, but that was something that was absolutely impossible 25 years ago, 30 years ago. So like we have so many advantages, and I think that, you know, every once in a while it's important to take a little reality check of, yes, things are hard, but they're nowhere near as hard as they have been, could have been. You know, there used to be, the industry wasn't saturated because no one could get into it. You couldn't live in, you know, the middle of, in Kansas in the United States, or some place out in, you said, you know, that in, did you say in Belgium, you were from Belgium and your card, you know, there's no card, right? So you couldn't live somewhere random and be a artist that was selling on major products in Target. And now that opportunity is there, even if it's not, you know, 100% going to happen. So that is something amazing. And that's, I hope that's uplifting. It's a little bit of tough love, but I hope that's uplifting to people to hear, like, you didn't have that option before, and now you do have that option, even if it's not the most likely thing to happen.
I agree with you. It's fantastic. Maybe one thing perhaps I see online, because the competition is so fierce. There's a sort of it's not an obligation, it's not mandatory, but you know, this kind of message hidden, saying you have to create every day, every day, every day. And I would say, don't create just for the sake of creating. You know, you should always be happy with what you create. It's important to deliver the best work, and I know that sometimes it becomes a bit too much, too much work. That is also the same, because we work on the same trends, and I feel that this overproduction is not really. Yes, we can be visible everywhere, we could sell everywhere, and that is absolutely priceless. But at the same time, I feel that we overproduce, a bit like in the fashion industry. There's an overproduction production because we also overconsume. So we should really focus on also quality and standing out. That's something that I would recommend.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Dom, we didn't even get to all the questions. I could talk to you forever, but I'm going to put your links in the description below. So people who are watching this, be sure to check out Dom's work. I'll put her Society 6 stores and her website, or whatever links. We don't.
No, the website is not done yet.
No website.
This is the thing.
Society 6.
Yeah.
And her Instagram. So definitely follow Dom. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It was a pleasure, Elizabeth. I will be in touch soon.
Ready to level up your surface pattern design game? Dive into the ultimate resource hub for aspiring designers, the Surface Pattern Boss Toolkit. Unlock a treasure trove of freebies, including sales sheet templates, exclusive industry expert videos, and mini courses to grow your creative business. Don't miss out. Click the link in the description below to access your toolkit now and become a pattern design pro.